Hello again, Phil Mickelson, 2013 British Open champion. What a great win for Phil, his 5th major championship of his career. One that many people, including myself, thought he probably would never win the British Open up until a couple of years ago when he finished 2nd behind Darren Clark, and I think it really inspired him to realise that he can compete and play on links golf courses, and for many years prior to that didn't really perform too well, didn't really feel like he was going to have a chance to win just because of the style of golf courses. Undoubtedly one of the most talented players probably ever, certainly of his generation, and to win 42 times on the PGA Tour, most of those wins coming in the Tiger Woods era, is a pretty phenomenal thing. Phil Mickelson is not the most consistent player, but I don't think you need to be consistent to be a good player. He'll miss a number of cuts, he'll play tournaments where he doesn't play well, he'll go home early, or he'll finish well down the pack, then he'll come out and win the next week, and that's just how he's always been. He's a very hot and cold player. He's not going to be at the top of his game every week, but when he is, he can win any tournament he plays in. We've got here a down the line view, camera's nicely positioned, and also a face on view, same thing, good camera angle, so this will work quite nicely. Unfortunately it's not on the same day and on the same golf course, but we've still got the face on the down the line. Phil's got a swing that's, because he's left-handed, obviously makes it look a bit different, but if you flip it around to right-handed, it's got some kind of interesting things in it that you might not expect. Phil's been working with the famous coach Butch Harmon for 5 to 6 years, and in that time he's tried to work on a couple of things. Number one, trying to shorten up his backswing. He's always had a very long swing. I don't know that he's gotten much shorter, to be honest with you. I think if he has, it's more to do with his age, being 43 years old now. You look at his swing when he was in his 20s, it certainly was longer, but that's probably more to do with his age than anything else. Phil's also a player who tends to have relatively active legs in his golf swing. He likes to lift the front heel off the ground quite a bit. A bit of an old-fashioned way of doing it, Tom Watson, Jack Nicklaus sort of thing. And through the ball he has a lot of rotation with the club face and lots of stuff going on with his hands, which you don't typically see. But anyway, let's take a look at the swing here of Phil. Phil's always been a long hitter. I think for a while he got too obsessed with his distance. He doesn't need to worry about the distance. He's got to try to maybe get the ball in the fairway a few more times. And when he won that British Open, he wasn't using his driver, he just had a 3-wood, and it really paid off for him. Alright, nice setup, Phil Mickelson, nice angles, everything was very conventional there. Takeaway, the club's a little bit underneath the original shaft plane, so therefore the club head is slightly behind the hands, halfway back. Phil's got a nice square club face here. He doesn't rotate the face open as many of you do in the backswing. So here you'll notice that the face of the club is still somewhat angled this way. It's not vertical or toe up. As you get a little further back, you'll see the shaft of the club is a little bit above the ball, so you might say it's slightly off plane, a little bit flat. That's because the club was slightly behind his hand in the backswing. All pretty good so far. As he gets more into the top of his swing here, you'll see the club face is in a position which is parallel to his lead arm. So for Phil, that's his right arm. Nice flat right wrist. So everything looks pretty good here so far. He's maintained good angles in his posture. In the past, Phil used to back up his head quite a bit away from the golf ball in the backswing, and even back it up more in the downswing. That's something that he has improved. Doesn't do that as much as he used to. Now the video on the right, you'll see there's going to be a line drawn in from the golf ball just up past the outside of his body, just to indicate a certain position we're looking for when we get to impact. You'll see here, Phil, this lovely wide one-piece takeaway. You do see evidence here of a relatively long backswing. This is just an iron. His driver swing can get longer than that, of course. You see not a lot of gap in between his knees. A little hard to see here, but that heel of the front foot tends to often come up in the air. So he's got a fair bit of rotation in his golf swing, particularly the lower body. Now as he comes back down to hit this golf ball, what you'll notice on the left hand side, down the line view, is the club shaft's a little more upright in the downswing. So the club shafts move more up to that top line. He's not coming over the top, obviously, the club's moved up to a little more upright plane, and it comes down really nicely in between his two forearms, down in line with the ball. So this is where you need to be, people. It doesn't really matter if you go upright in the backswing or a little bit flatter in the backswing. You do need to recover and get this club shaft on plane at this point here as you're approaching down to the golf ball, and Phil does that obviously very well. Phil's got a good rotation of the body through the ball. See, the shoulders are only slightly open. A little hard to see because he's got dark clothes on, but his hips would be more open through here, the shoulders just a little bit open. Relatively flat footed through the ball, doesn't have a lot of movement in the lower body through impact. But what's really interesting here is his trail hand, or his left hand, almost flies off the golf club. You'll see that top hand with the glove, the knuckles sort of roll down to the ground, so the face appears to be rotating over, and I don't want to say closing, but rotating to the left. And the right hand, which is the gloved hand, the top hand, the knuckles are going down, and the trail hand sort of rolls over the top. So this is probably a draw, or a left to right draw for Phil, but even when he plays fade shots, he's seeing something very similar through the ball, where his trail arm sort of flies out and kind of flies down towards the target for a little while. The lead hand rolls over with the knuckles, and Phil's club face is kind of over in this position here quite soon after impact. So there's probably more face rotation through the ball than some players would do. See the pretty standard lowering of the head. Now what's interesting on the front on view, a lot of players who have long backswings past parallel, certainly at the amateur level, we're going to create some problems in the downswing. Often you'll see early release and casting of the club, but Phil's certainly not going to be doing that. You'll notice as Phil changes direction, he starts to move, the lower body starts to lead forward towards the target. You see that push in the left and the lead hip, right hip for Phil, moving out towards the target. And certainly there's no evidence here whatsoever of early release. If anything, Phil's still got plenty of angle between the shaft and the lead arm. And as he comes into the golf ball, that reason that line was drawn in there originally was we'd like to see the left arm and the shaft line up approximately at impact, or even a fraction after. And you'll see here with Phil, this is just a millisecond after impact, and you'll see how that lead arm and the shaft have lined up, and the terrific angle between the trail arm and the shaft. And this is impact alignments don't get much better than this. One of the reasons why he's such a great player. So he's got those three key things that I always talk about in my students. The head must still have remained behind the ball. He's done that. The weight must have moved into the lead leg. You'll see that the movement forward, he's definitely done that. And the shaft of the club must forward lean towards the target, meaning that the hands are forward of the golf ball, and clearly he's done that. Now if you look really closely now, what happens is obviously the golf ball is impacted, then the club head is still going to be travelling down because the shaft is leaning forward, so the club head is travelling towards the ground. You'll notice soon after impact his club will actually go into the ground. Look at the bend on that shaft. So that shaft is deflecting, somewhat due to the impact of the ball and somewhat due to the impact of the ground, where the club head was slowing down and it created that bend in the shaft. Now you You need to have a pretty high speed camera to be able to see that, but that's what's happening when you hit golf balls, particularly with the balls on the ground. Now that energy that's been loaded into the shaft, that deflection has to obviously come out again, so you'll see just in a moment after that the shaft will actually bend and deflect back the other way. You see the shaft under enormous stress there, and now it starts to bend forward. All of this is happening in a very short moment of time, but that's energy being transferred from the club into the ball, and then the collision of the club and the ball and the club to the ground, there's some stress that's put on the shaft. It's really important you've got the right shafts in your club for these things to happen. Really lovely flat top wrist. As he goes through the ball, you'll notice how quickly his trail hand goes over his lead hand, so that's going to create more face rotation on the club head than some players would like, but Phil knows what he's doing. Certainly it's not the most accurate of drivers, never has been, probably never will be, but an absolute magician around the greens, short game, putting, and a very good iron player as well. So there we have Phil Mickelson, Hall of Fame player, successful career. He's just got to get one more major championship in the US Open to complete the career Grand Slam. Let's hope he can get it done in the next few years.